TFA fam, it is day one of NFL free agency. When the
Kinda.
tampering period is over and the actual league year has started, it is now officially the 2023 NFL season. We've had quite a flurry of free agent signings, had a few trades. We're still waiting for a few other dominoes to fall. But so far, it's been a decent free agent class, I guess, so far. Now, we have to remember this wasn't a loaded free agency class, anyways. Like there wasn't a whole lot of especially from a fantasy perspective, there weren't a lot of great options here in this class. So a
Yeah.
ton of running backs, but we got franchise tag for Tony Pollard. He went back to the Dallas. Saquon, franchised by Giants. Then Josh Jacobs also got the franchise tag. So a lot of the premier running backs were already taken off the board, going back to their original teams. And then wide receiver class was pretty suspect to begin with. Whenever you have
Booty.
Juju Smith-Schuster possibly being the best wide receiver that was available, that tells you everything you need to know. But we still have had quite a bit of movement so far, and I do expect some trades to happen. I think we could possibly see Brandon Cooks get traded. I think DeAndre Hopkins is still yet to be traded, and he is on the available. And I wouldn't surprise me if the Bucks look to trade somebody like a Mike Evans or even a Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin would be a lot harder, but something like that because there's still a lot of teams that need wide receivers. So let's just get into it. I guess we can start at the quarterback position. Lamar Jackson has yet to figure things out. He was franchise tagged with a non-exclusive offer. I believe today was the first day that NFL teams could actually contact Lamar Jackson and start, working out some sort of deal there. So we'll see what happens with him. Geno Smith returned to the Seahawks. Derek Carr signs with the Saints. Daniel Jones re-signs with the Giants. Jimmy G to the Raiders. I don't know if that was an upgrade or a downgrade. I'm not sure. And then we have some other stuff like Jacoby Brissett signed with the Commanders. Baker Mayfield's going to the Bucks. Andy Dalton's going to the Panthers. Taylor Heineke to the Falcons. Jarrett Stidham backup. Russell Wilson. Then we have Mike White to the Dolphins. Case Keenum to the Texans. Sam Darnold to the 49ers. And then James Winston goes back to the Saints. And Nick Mullins to the Vikings. So of all the quarterbacks, I don't think there's a true standout thing of anything that's oh man, I'm excited about this. Like Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously he's going to be the starting quarterback at least for this year for the Raiders. I don't think it precludes them from drafting a quarterback in this class. Maybe they take a Will Levis or something like that if he were to fall. Let him sit for a year and you let Jimmy G start for a year. I think is definitely in the range of possibilities of things they could do. But I guess let's start here because I think he's kind of the, of the guys assigned with new teams anyway, the guy we could talk about the most, him and probably Derek Carr. What do you how do you view this for the Raiders? I guess more so for Devontae Adams.
I mean, is it really an upgrade? I don't know. Like you said, I think this is more of a bridge type of situation. Obviously, we have some of the quarterback questions or answers now to the test. I mean, I think it's fine. I think obviously in terms of Jimmy G, it hurts to lose Darren Waller. Obviously, Jacoby Myers coming in there. That tight end depth chart is, you want to talk about suspect? That tight end depth chart is very suspect. So I don't know. Like you said at the top, there's nothing I'm super excited about here. I wish I could be like, hey man, Baker Mayfield, just watch out. It's I want Baker to be a thing. I really do. I loved him coming out. His rookie year at Cleveland, I thought I was going to be right. It's look, I knew it. Baker's legit, and it's been downhill from there. But if they don't move Evans and Godwin, it could potentially be the best duo he's played with. I know he had Landry and OBJ for a little bit, but outside of that, it's just not a ton here. Then obviously we have the Aaron Rodgers intends to play for the New York Jets talk.
With that, I guess that would actually be the. I mean, it hasn't happened yet, but in all likelihood, that's what's going to happen. I mean, he did spoke today on the Pat McAfee show, and I'm sure most people have seen it. I mean, I think there was 500,000 people watching. Normally, there's 50,000 people that watch that show whenever it's live. But I think there was a lot of clarification, at least from his side of things. Take a grain of salt, what's true, what's not, whatever. But it does sound like that's where he's heading. I mean, obviously, I think the writing was already on the wall when they signed.
Yeah.
When they signed Allen Lazard, and then they're talking about bringing in Randall Cobb and Mercedes Lewis, kind of getting the band together with the Jets. But I think it's great news for Garrett Wilson. I mean, to have Aaron Rodgers is obviously a massive upgrade over what they had. You can say whatever you want. I know people think now that Aaron Rodgers is washed all of a sudden again, even though we thought that before, like 3 or 4 years ago, and then he goes and wins two Super Bowl or two MVPs. Excuse me. I don't think that he's washed at all. I think they have a really solid foundation there. I think they have a good offensive line. I think the weapons are there. They still have Lazard. We'll see what they're going to do with Corey Davis. Wouldn't surprise me if they were to ship him out, or even Elijah Moore. He could possibly be a part of the package that they send over to the Packers. But Garrett Wilson, I think, is fantastic news for him. There's no more question marks with him. I think you kind of feel pretty solid if he's probably like a top 15 wide receiver in 2023, I think now. With Aaron Rodgers coming to the Jets. So I think that is probably the best news we have. Of the other options, there's nothing that really stands out to me. I'm happy Daniel Jones returned to the Giants. I think that was the best case scenario. It looks like they're trying to get some stuff done. Obviously, they already brought in Darren Waller via trade. Actually, they turned the third-round pick they got from the Chiefs for Kadarius Toney into Darren Waller, because that's the pick they sent to the Raiders. And so that is a good upgrade for them. He instantly becomes the best weapon they have. Now, the question is, can he stay healthy? But if he can, I think they're heading in the right direction. They still need to add some more pieces. They are also linked to guys like DJ Chark and McCall Hardman. They're looking at them as well. So I do think they will be somebody that is definitely looking for a wide receiver in the draft. But they also have our guy, what is his name? Isaiah Hodgins as well. There,
love him so much. Forgot his name.
I actually just drafted him in my upcoming best ball draft I'm doing. I got him on the squad, so do have him. And I actually already had Darren Waller, and so now I guess I should draft Daniel Jones to complete the stack. But I think that kind of wraps up the quarterbacks. I don't think there was a lot to get into with these guys. I mean, we'll wait to see with Lamar Jackson. I think what the Baltimore is going to do is like, okay, because they can match any offer that comes in. Like, all right, go out and negotiate your deal, and then I think they're just going to match it. Is that what you think they're going to do?
Yeah, although it's just so weird that we haven't even heard any grumblings of potential teams going after him, and the fact that everyone came out right away just like, nope, yep, not interested, not going to do it. Just it's odd to me, very, very odd. So, I mean, there is a world where teams really don't go after him, and Lamar Jackson is making less than Danny Dimes this year, because he was hit with the non-exclusive tag, which is less money than just a regular franchise tag.
Well, I mean, he could too if he wants. I mean, he could sit out, I think, until week 10, I think it is, and just not play, and then just come back, play week 10, and then leave, and then he would be he'd be a free agent after this year. So that's also a possibility. And I think with the NFL teams where maybe they don't even want to worry about it is because they think that if they do try to sign him, that the Ravens are going to just match whatever that deal would be, and then it would be all for naught anyway. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. It has been pretty rough there in Baltimore with all the drama that's been surrounded. I mean, you've had Rashad Bateman tweeting at the GM, and all kinds of stuff happening there, which I don't think is necessarily fair to throw Lamar Jackson under the bus and their offense, because they haven't surrounded him with anything. And so, like, on one hand, I get it because he is kind of one-dimensional in a way of just being a pure, run-first guy. He hasn't really shown the ability year over year to be a consistent passer. Yes, he had, I think, 2019 where he had those 35, 36 passing touchdowns. But other than that, he has not been able to consistently be able to do that. But it's also, they haven't surrounded him with anybody. They had Hollywood Brown and they shipped him off. They haven't done anything else. They drafted Rashad Bateman. Rashad Bateman's been hurt. But they're every year their wide receiver core is just a bunch of nobodies that for most teams wouldn't even play on their teams. Yeah. So it's kind of hard to knock Lamar Jackson at the same time for that whenever he's been given so little support outside of Mark Andrews. So anyways, let's just jump over to the running backs. I don't think there's a whole lot left to talk about a quarterback. So as we already mentioned, Jacobs, Barkley, Pollard have all been franchise tagged. Miles Sanders signs with Carolina. And then you have David Montgomery signs with the Lions. Hate that. Jamal Williams goes to the Saints. Jeff Wilson goes to the Dolphins, returns to the Dolphins, as well as Raheem Mostert. Rashad Penny to the Eagles. Alexander Madison returns to the Vikings. Samaje Perine to Denver. And then you got guys like Mike Boone, who signed with the Texans. Breida went back to the Giants. Travis Homer went to the Bears. And then James Robinson signed with the Patriots. Kind of the list of guys. Oh, and Ezekiel Elliott, the fullback, was cut, because that's what he is now anyway. So, of all these running backs, my favorite landing spot here is Miles Sanders going to the Panthers. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't mind it at all. We're talking about a team where Deonta Foreman had a career year last year. Not that the bar was very high, but by far his best year. Chuba Hubbard was solid in spots. Carolina was quietly ninth in adjusted line yards last year. Now, obviously, it's going to be a downgrade going from the Philly offensive line to Carolina, but Carolina was also dealing with some injuries last year as well. So if they could be fully healthy, it might not be that far of a drop. And I think the thing that I am most excited about is Miles Sanders finally seeing some targets out of the backfield. I think that is where he's probably not going to repeat his touchdowns from this year, but he can make up for a lot of that if he can just get involved in the passing game again. I mean, it seems like it's been eons since we have seen it, but his first 2 years, I think he had like 110, 120 ish combined targets between those 2 years. And we've seen Frank Reich and his offenses be more than willing to target running backs whenever they have an above average option. So I like this spot. I like the landing spot for Sanders. And then obviously, depending on what they end up doing with whatever quarterback they end up drafting, could be exciting. And they have no weapons there, so seems like he's in line for a bunch of looks.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I am with it anyways on that, is that I feel like that just from a pure opportunity standpoint, it's the best opportunity of any running back that's signed so far. At least obviously the Miami guys are going to split touches again, but I feel like Miles Sanders, and this being a 4-year deal, kind of surprised me a little bit for Miles Sanders. I did not expect him to see that big of a deal. Now I don't think they've released the terms yet for Miles Sanders. The last I looked, I didn't see exactly what the numbers were, but overall, I think it's still a great spot. They really don't have anybody else there. Deontay Foreman's a free agent. Obviously, Chuba Hubbard's still there, but I don't see them drafting anybody now. And maybe they draft somebody later or something like that. But I don't. They're not going to draft anybody of consequence after giving Miles Sanders a lengthy long-term deal. So at least from that standpoint, I think he's in a good spot. And then from there, I actually think a sneaky one is going to be Samaje Perine, because I love Javonte Williams, and everybody knows that watches the show. I am the biggest Javonte Williams stan, but I'm not going to sit here and say that Javonte Williams is going to be good to go. I mean, there's still talks of he may not be ready to go to start the year, and he could miss a month or two of the season. We don't know yet. It's still way too early to tell. And even still, like, we know that running backs coming off this injury with ACL, and it wasn't just the ACL for him. I think it was also the PCL and the LCL that he tore. It wasn't just a clean ACL like Brees Hall's was. And so he's probably not going to be the guy this year, right? And so Samaje Perine, we've seen, can be a 3-down workhorse back. And so I think, and they've upgraded that offensive line. They brought in Mike McGlinchey. They also added a guard as well. And so that offensive line, I think, could be really good. And so, Samaje Perine, and he's not going to be drafted high because of Javonte Williams' unknown. He's still going to be there. And so I think Samaje Perine is going to be a really good, like, later round guy to target, who could end up having a pretty big role in this offense.
Yeah, I like that one a lot, especially in best balls. I can't imagine his price is gonna jump up too high. So I think he makes a ton of sense of someone to look at late. Just want to give a quick shout out to the chat. It's good to see all these familiar faces in here. We've missed you guys. Ashton rocking with us. Isaac, Crab Gravy coming in here as well. Our guy Walito saying Orlando Brown to the Bengals. Our ma'am Tam, also rocking with us, has a running back question on the back of the Austin Ekeler news. But let's make it through a couple more of these talking points for the running backs, and then we can get to her question. I know you said you hated the Montgomery signing to Detroit. I like it, man. I'm all about it. I wish Jamal would have stayed in Detroit, just because like that just seemed to be like such a perfect fit, right? Between Dan Campbell, the way that Jamal Williams plays. But obviously we have Jamal Williams landing with Walito's Saints. But this is by far going to be the best offensive line that Montgomery has played behind. We know that he is elite at breaking tackles. Maybe not so much in terms of picking up a bunch of yards after breaking those tackles. But I'm excited to see what this does for David Montgomery. If you had him in Dynasty, like this gives you like a nice little boost, makes you feel good about having him. And the DeAndre Swift hype was short lived for sure. And it just seems like this coaching staff isn't fully invested in him. It's going to kind of be what it has been. You know what I mean? I think we see a similar split with the touches. I mean, we had Craig Reynolds mixing in while Swift was healthy. He went down, and then we saw Justin Jackson mixing in with touches as well. So I like this from Monty. Do you not like it from the Swift standpoint, or have you just turned into a Monty hater?
I'm not a Monty hater. I just don't think he's that good. I mean, he's very mid, right? And which I guess you could say that about a lot of running backs, but I don't think Swift is dead. It just obviously isn't something that you're gonna say, "Oh, he's in a great spot," right? Like, because as long as he can stay healthy, he's still gonna be fine. Like last year, he was still top 15 in fantasy points per game last year, and that's with only 99 rushing attempts. Last year, 542 yards, almost 400 receiving yards, and 8 touchdowns for DeAndre Swift, and that was in 14 games played. As long as he can stay healthy, I think he's still going to be an asset. And if this drops down his value, where he becomes much more reasonable, where maybe you get him in the fourth round in a PPR format, I'm definitely okay with that. But with David Montgomery is all about volume. Like that's what he's been his entire career. He's not efficient whatsoever. Now, of course, we can sit here and say that, oh well, look at all those touchdowns that Jamal Williams got, and that's true. He definitely did. But I mean, touchdowns are the hardest thing to predict year over year, and so I'm not going to sit here and say that David Montgomery is going to get whatever ridiculous amount of touchdowns Jamal Williams. I can't remember off the top of my head, 10 plus
17.
touchdowns. All of a sudden, I don't think that's going to be all of a sudden going to be the thing. And so, like, I think David Montgomery is going to be fine, but I also don't know what you can truly expect from him from a touch standpoint. I think last year he averaged. I mean, I guess if he comes in and gets somewhere near but if you look at it where he was last year, 11.1 fantasy points per game last year, and he had averaged almost 13 carries per game and 2.5 targets per game. Let's say that's right around the range of what he's going to see. He's going to need those touchdowns to really be relevant because other than that, like I think he's going to end up being overdrafted a little bit. We'll see what happens here, but I think it's fine if he's somebody that you could get in like the 9th, 10th round or something like that. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with taking a shot on him, but I'm not going to overdraft him either because I still think DeAndre Swift is still definitely going to have a role in the offense. But I get it. Maybe DeAndre Swift is never that guy, but he doesn't necessarily need to be. He just needs to be healthy. He's a super efficient running back. Like he's like Aaron Jones, right? Somebody that is super efficient. Tony Pollard. He doesn't need 20 plus touches a game. He just needs to stay healthy enough to be able to still see 12 to 15 or in that probably that 11 to 14 range of touches, and he's fine. And he could definitely still be very viable, especially depending on where his ADP comes in.
Yeah, I think Monty has, not that he's a fantastic pass catcher by any means, but I think he does offer a little bit more than what Jamal Williams does. And like you said, 17 touchdowns isn't going to happen again. And what 13 of them were from the two and in, something absurd like that. So not going to happen. But I think there is upside, and especially with Jameson Williams coming back to the fold. I feel like that could help that offensive line out even more. And I don't think he'll end up being overdrafted. I think he'll be, another dead zone running back where, you're probably going to be better off taking, a wide receiver, a tight end in that range anyway. But I'm a Monty fan, love him. He was my RB1 coming out his rookie year. I think that was the year of Sanders and Josh Jacobs, if I'm remembering correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So that I was just happy to see him land in a decent spot as well. The other one we have to get to, the one that kind of, the truthers were rallying and the haters were just completely ignoring it. And that is the Rashad Penny to Philly deal. Now, obviously those details got released and it was for like 1.3 million. So literally nothing. Like this doesn't, stop them from potentially going after, Bijan has been, kind of rumored or thrown about. Jahmyr Gibbs as well. This definitely doesn't stop them from taking on somebody like that. But, obviously all comes down to health. But your thoughts on the Rashad Penny to the Eagles?
think it's intriguing. I think, but like it's gonna obviously depend on health. I think that we've seen it whenever he's healthy that he can be fantastic. Like he could be that guy. I mean, even last year he had a game last year where he scored almost 30 fantasy points against the Lions. And but the problem is he just hasn't been out. He's just been super unlucky. He just cannot get over being hurt. He's constantly always hurt. We were hoping last year that maybe he could figure it out. And then last year, what he had the tibia fracture in week 5 at the end of the season, and but he's dealt with all kinds of injuries throughout his career, and I think it's an interesting spot, but I also still would probably rather have Kenneth Gainwell. Like I don't think Rashad Penny's going to come in and get the role that Miles Sanders had. And so if they don't do anything else, which I think is possible, they don't do anything else because they brought back Boston Scott, they have Penny, who they're not giving him a ton of money. It's kind of like the Ronald Jones situation, right? Where the Chiefs kind of brought in Ronald Jones last year on a really cheap deal, and then he never even saw the field, which is possible. They could, I think it's definitely in the range of possibilities they draft a running back for sure. And so we'll see on that, but like I'm not overly excited about it, mainly just because I just don't think the man is ever going to stay out there, which sucks because we were on, or I was on, but somehow you got credit for Shaq Penny the year that he won the league for us. But I'll never forget that. Anyways, so yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a bad deal. It's not a great deal. I do think that obviously some big winners of today, Tony Pollard, great. And now he was already in a great spot, but now Zeke Elliott being gone, like they're definitely going to bring somebody else in. Like I think they draft somebody. I've seen a lot of people talk about Bijan. Like, no, like
it would be very on brand though.
I guess that's the only reason I think people are saying it is because they did what they did with Zeke and them drafting him. But I just don't think. I think he's going to go higher than where they're going to be picking anyway. And why? If they already have Tony Pollard, right? And I get it that they split touches and everything last year and they don't want him to, but I just don't see that the landing spot for him. But I'll say this: there's starting to be less and less like just obvious landing spots for a running back with all the moves that have happened, right? Like off the top of your head, like where are just some like wide open landing spots for a running back? Like I think Atlanta's still there as a team that you could possibly say yes, they have Tyler Algier. Maybe the Texans,
Houston,
because they do have that second first round pick that they could possibly, if they wanted to use, but I don't think that's probably going to happen. I guess I mean Tampa,
maybe
where
Rams, like depending on. I know Cam Akers finished the season
they don't have
strong,
a first round
but
pick,
like,
so they would have to trade up to get into the first, right?
oh, are you talking about for Bijan?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant just like in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what Houston at 12? I can't. I mean, Atlanta's not going to do that at 8, right?
I don't know. Look who they have as their head coach. I mean, he just sticks to midnight, even thinking about just zone run schemes and and all this stuff. Just loves it. So like I don't know. Like there's going to be a team that's going to fall in love with them that's stuck in that old school mentality of you got to have your running back and all this other stuff. But I don't know. Is it possible that we could see Bijan fall out of the first round?
No, I don't think that happens.
Well, it's obvious NFL teams are getting smarter and smarter about the running back position. Like we're not seeing anybody pay for a running back, right? Yes, some teams franchise a running back, but I think it was smart. I think it's smart for teams to utilize the franchise tag because it doesn't cost them a ton of money. And like Saquon, like you're just getting another year out of Saquon, you're getting another year out of Josh Jacobs, and a lot of these guys by the time that's up, and you do that. Oh well, it's cool because now it's another year that they've ran them to the ground, and they lose value. Like we're seeing such a short shelf life with these running backs now that I don't know. I think it's. I mean, it would. Let me put it this way: it would not surprise me at all if Bijan wasn't drafted in the first round. Like I don't think he should be. I mean, he's definitely warrantable of a guy who should be drafted like late first for sure, just because of his talent. But it wouldn't shock me if NFL teams were just like, we're not taking a running back in the first round.
I think it's more likely that Bijan goes top 10 than him falling out of the first.
It's possible. We'll see. I do think that team will fall in love with it. But I guess my point was there's just not a lot of like obvious landing spots for a running back. We don't have that like Pittsburgh, we know Pittsburgh needs a running back, right? Like, and it was whoever goes there is going to be in a great spot. Like, we don't have that landing spot right now for a running back that I can think of off the top of my head, right? 'Cause-
Buffalo.
so everybody keeps saying Buffalo, but I don't think Buffalo is a great spot for a running back. I mean, when you have Josh Allen, who's going to run the ball and he's going to take goal line carries away, like I just don't think that's an advantageous spot for a running back. And I think they would still mix in James Cook if they drafted Bijan.
Walito really wants us to say Chicago at 9.
Why? Why would they do that? Especially at where are they picking 9?
Mm-hmm.
No. Why would you do that? Like they have been so smart about what they've done so far, and now they're just going to burn it by drafting Bijan Robinson in the top 10. That does not seem like a Ryan Poles thing, who came from Kansas City, thing that they would do at all. So
I'm so excited, man. I can't wait. So excited to see where all these guys end up going. Like I think like this part from like Senior Bowl to the draft is honestly like my favorite part of the entire football season. Like don't get me wrong, games are fun, Super Bowl and all that, but I think like this couple month stretches is my favorite.
yeah, we're only what, a month and a half away from the draft.
Yeah. We did before we move on to the wide receivers, we did have that question from Tam. I have Eckler on all of my keeper leagues. Any thoughts about landing spots? I wouldn't mind Detroit. Obviously, I don't think that's going to be, unless they get rid of Swift. I don't really think that's an option with them landing Montgomery at this point. But we're kind of just going over it, that there aren't a lot of like clear cut, oh hell yeah, this makes a lot of sense, right? And especially if he wants to get traded to get an extension too. Like that's the other part of this whole scenario. It's not that he just wants to be traded because he's sick of the Chargers. It's because they couldn't come to terms on an extension. So that's the other part that we have to keep in mind with this. But are there any landing spots off the top of your head that you would like for Eckler?
Not really. I mean, there's just like not that's realistic, right? You could just start naming some random teams or whatever if you wanted to, sure, but they're not really realistic. And so, problem is he's damn near 28 years old. Like teams aren't going to pay you like this big contract at your age. Like it sucks. And Austin Eckler's been fantastic, but that's just the way the running back position is now. Like teams have gotten smarter. We haven't seen teams overdraft running backs, and we're not seeing a constant flow of running backs in the first round anymore. That's kind of dying. I mean, Jonathan Taylor wasn't even drafted in the first round. Obviously, we know there was one running back that was drafted in the first round of that draft. We're not going to talk about who that was, but yes, that was drafted. I think the last pick of that first round. But for the most part, we're just not seeing it anymore, and teams are getting smarter, and they're not paying these guys the way they used to be, and so like it sucks if you're Austin Eckler, who's been great, right? But like teams just have realized you don't need to pay a running back. You don't have to have an elite running back at all to win a Super Bowl. Like it's not required whatsoever. So the days of paying these running backs these big time contracts is just over. And so I don't think maybe there's a desperate team that does it, but for the most part, you're probably not going to see it. And so because that's the other, I think the best part of the argument is that a team's going to have to want to restructure them to do it, and there's probably not going to be a team that's going to want to do that, especially at 28 years old.
Yeah, and the recent cliff that we've seen from running backs too as well.
Yeah. Teams just aren't going to do that stuff anymore. And so, yeah, I don't think he goes anywhere. I think he stays with the Chargers, honestly.
Yeah, I think he's going to see it. There's probably, like you said, it sucks. The fact that, the best years of his career have come as late as they have for him, in running back years, he might as well be 83. So, it sucks, but kind of is what it is. So let's go ahead and move on to the wide receivers. We have Jacoby landing with the Raiders, Juju going to the Patriots. We had, not that this is necessarily free agency, but DJ Moore landing with Chicago in the Bears trade, Allen Lazard to the Jets. And then after that, just not a ton to be excited about. If you want to get excited about Robert Woods and Noah Brown landing with Houston, there are some interesting names that have yet to be signed. Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, Kenny Golladay was released today. Obviously, Odell sitting out there, was apparently on Aaron Rodgers' wish list. And then a name that was getting a bunch of buzz that I saw maybe a few days ago. All my days are running together at this point. But Paris Campbell, I saw there was a bunch of buzz for him that he was expected to be receiving a bunch of calls. Obviously, we haven't had a lot of movement on that, but anything stand out to you? Obviously, the big ones being Jacoby Myers, Juju, Alan Lazard, and then DJ Moore. If you want to talk about it from a trade perspective. Muted. Amateur.
What?
It's been too long.
What is this? The Juju Smith-Schuster and the Jacoby Myers one is almost like the Spider-Man meme, right? Where they're both pointing at each other because they're essentially very similar players and they signed for the exact same contract. So I don't really understand why the Patriots just didn't bring back Jacoby Myers. And I actually think Jacoby Myers is probably a little bit better than what Juju Smith-Schuster is. I think Juju Smith-Schuster is a little bit better at certain things than what each other are, but I think they're very similar for the most part. And I really don't understand why they didn't just bring back Jacoby Myers. But regardless of that, I think both of them are just terrible landing spots for fantasy purposes. I'm not overly excited about Juju. Like if he's like a wide receiver 4, I think it's fine because I think he steps right into the Jacoby Myers role where he could see 100 and 110, 115 targets or something like that for Juju as long as he can stay healthy. I think one of the reasons you see the Chiefs that were very hesitant to sign him to the contract because that is not some expensive contract, 3 for 33, and I think 22 million of that is guaranteed up front as over the first 2 years. It sounds like the third year you pretty much get out of is because of his health. Like he was struggling big time with some knee issues. I think after the Super Bowl, he said he could barely walk. And so I think that had a lot to do with it. But he wasn't terrible last year, almost 1,000 yards and 78 receptions and 3 touchdowns in 16 games, but he was very hit or miss. But overall, but now you go to a big downgrade going to the Patriots, terrible offense that they have there. That is a team that is likely the 4th best team in that division now, with Aaron Rodgers likely heading there. But last year, Jacoby Myers saw 95 targets in 14 games. He saw 126 the year before that. So I think he probably falls somewhere in that range. And if he can be a guy that could, maybe he could put up similar numbers to Jacoby Myers, then you're probably looking at a wide receiver who could finish as like a low end wide receiver 3, a high end wide receiver 4. And so if that's kind of where he's valued, but I'm not excited to draft him. Like there's no real ceiling there for Juju Smith-Schuster. And if there was a different quarterback and with the Raiders, that I would be a little bit more excited about Jacoby Myers because I love Jacoby Myers. I think he's a really good player, but I hate the landing spot. And you have Jimmy Garoppolo. They're probably going to run the ball a ton and they're going to play game management. And so I don't think you're going to be able to trust Jacoby Myers on a week-to-week basis, even though it's probably better now that Darren Waller's gone, but they still have Hunter Renfrow. Again, should make a lot of sense. You have Renfrow and Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers has pretty much been primarily from the slot. Last year, he played in the slot almost 55% of his snaps from the slot. He can play on the inside and out, but he plays a lot in the slot. So I don't think it's a great landing spot for either one of them, not one that you're like overly excited about. I do think the best one, though, was DJ Moore. Like, I know that wasn't a signing, it was a trade, but this is far and away the best wide quarterback that he's ever got to play with, DJ Moore. It's kind of what we've been waiting for. I know there's the people on one side that hate Justin Fields, think Justin Fields is terrible. I think Justin Fields is a dog. I think he is a very good quarterback, and I think once now they're surrounding him with talent, improving their offensive line, which is what they've done so far this offseason with adding a couple offensive linemen. I think this offense can take off. Now you have Darnell Mooney, DJ Moore, and Chase Claypool. And with Cole Kmet and with an improved offensive line, I think they continue to attack that. They probably draft an offensive tackle with their first-round pick, which is would be smart for them as well. And I think that DJ Moore could be in a really good spot. So I like DJ Moore quite a bit here for this in this situation.
I just don't know what to think about it, to be honest. It feels like, we've been projecting the DJ Moore and, Terry McLaurin breakout for the past 3 years now. And it's just really hard to say with Justin Fields because that offense has just been so limited. You know what I mean? Like obviously putting a talent like DJ Moore with Justin Fields obviously does more good than harm, right? Like it's that wasn't going to be like a step backwards for the Bears, but there's definitely some projection here to see what this really comes out to be. Um, like I don't know. I still don't think we really know like what kind of offense they really want to run. You know what I mean?
I think they're kind of telling us with what they're doing, though. Trading for DJ Moore, adding to the offensive line, letting David Montgomery walk. Like, I definitely think that they're surrounding Justin Fields with as much talent as they can, which is what they should be doing, especially under his rookie contract. Not enough teams do this stuff. It is super frustrating to watch this stuff because teams should be going all in under this part of a team under for their quarterbacks, and we just don't see it all that much. They did add Nate Davis, which is I think is something that's going to help them. Like I said, I would be shocked if they didn't draft their left tackle with that ninth overall pick. And so I think that I think Justin Fields is a very good quarterback. I think that he's been in a bad spot, and I think he breaks out even more so as a passer this year than what we've seen in years past. So we have to look at some of the players he's been playing with, and it's just been a really, really bad spot for him in terms of just being as a quarterback. But I think adding DJ Moore is going to go a long way here for this offense. And if
I
you
was
remember,
I
I mean, it's like if you remember Stephon Diggs when he was with the Vikings, like Stephon Diggs was not the wide receiver one, this star, right? Like that happened once he came to Buffalo. Like it was still a lot of people like Thielen more than Stephon Diggs. I mean, Stephon Diggs wasn't terrible at all whenever he was with the Vikings, but it certainly wasn't what he is now with him. And if you look at DJ Moore, I mean, DJ Moore has had 3 seasons of 1,100 receiving yards. He just hasn't had the touchdowns to go along with it to bump him up. He's still been a guy who's giving you about 14, 15 fantasy points per game. But Stephon Diggs, back when he was with Minnesota, was more of a guy that was right in that same range where he was getting 1,400, about 14 PPR points per game. That's where he was falling in at. Because getting close to roughly around 1,000, 1,100 yards, he didn't really start going off until he went to Buffalo in 2020, and that's when he became the man, right? And so I think we could see somewhat of a career trajectory similar that we saw from Stephon Diggs. I think DJ Moore is a very good wide receiver. He just has always been stuck in really bad offenses with really bad quarterbacks.
I guess I'm also just struggling to see that amount of like because I don't know. I was getting ready to bring up how I can't stand the everyone that's been saying like, oh well, Allen making this leap with Diggs, which I get. And there's another, I can't remember the quarterback that there's another one that people have been throwing out that once X quarterback got a true wide receiver one, that was like the unlock. Um, but we're also talking about 150, 160 targets for Stephon Diggs. Like I said, I don't know. I'm just not sure how many, how much passing volume is going to be there for Chicago. That's, I'll probably miss out on DJ Moore because of it, but I'm kind of fine missing out on him just because I don't know. Just feels like there's a lot of projection there for this first year.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Obviously, like I said, I just think I'm higher on Justin Fields than I think a lot of people are, it's not just because of his rushing ability. I think he can be a very good passer of the football, which a lot of people don't think that. But I don't think he's really been set up for success to be able to do that until now. And I think they're starting to surround him with the pieces that he needs to succeed. And if he doesn't, then it's never going to work. But I thought it was laughable that people were, suggesting that the Bears were going to trade Justin Fields. Like, there's no shot they were going to trade Justin Fields. They did the smart move by trading down and getting DJ Moore plus a bunch of picks.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of it at wide receiver. We can jump over to tight end. Really, not a lot going on there either. We still have the majority of the big names still sitting out there, right? With Schultz, Gesicki, Hooper, Tanyan, Irv Smith still sitting out there. I think the biggest thing was obviously the Darren Waller trade. Again, not that necessarily a free agency signing, but it happened in the realm. So we're going to talk about it. going over to the Giants. We have Hayden Hurst going to Carolina. Evan Ingram getting the tag. We kind of talked about that, last week or the week before. And then Jonnu Smith being traded to Atlanta. Is there and anything? Obviously, Waller is the key cog here in terms of the tight end shuffling. I've been seeing a lot of people saying, now that Waller is in, with the Giants, he's back up to top 5 status. Or, you being the Daniel Jones truther here, are you excited for Waller with the Giants?
If he can stay healthy, sure. That's kind of been his issue too, is health. He hasn't really been able to put it all together because of it. Um, if you look at over the last couple of seasons, last year he missed a bunch of time. He played 9 games last year. He played 11 games in 2021. You have to go back to 2020 before he played a full season, which is the last time that he put up. That's when he put up 107 receptions, 1,200 yards, and 9 touchdowns that year with the Raiders. But since then, it's been kind of downhill a little bit, and he's been a guy it's really hard to trust. He's now almost 31 years old. He is getting older. Obviously, he's still athletic, but he was a later breakout guy, so it's not like he has a ton of wear on him either. So I don't think it's the end of the world. But sure, if he can stay healthy, because right now, there's not a ton of surefire options there with the Giants, so he could see a pretty heavy workload, and you could make a pretty solid case that he's definitely in a better spot now than with the Raiders signing Jimmy Garoppolo, than where him being with the Giants. So I think he's a solid option. I don't know if I quite have him at a top 5. I think he's right around there. But we're also talking about a tight end position that's pretty barren
Low
too.
bar.
So it's not a huge accomplishment, right? But one thing I will say is maybe you don't see a lot of teams really go all in on one of those, because this rookie tight end class is absolutely loaded. Like, we're probably going to see 5, if not 6 tight ends go in the top 2 rounds of the NFL draft. Like, we could see 2 or 3 tight ends go in the first round. I think it's definitely possible. I think Mayer and Kincaid probably go in the first. I think one more could possibly slide, but then you're probably going to see 3 or 4 more go in the second round. So maybe a lot of teams aren't going to spend a lot or go all in on a tight end. So I think that's possible too. And I did see people try to knock Kyle Pitts for Jonnu going to the to the Falcons. I'm like, stop it. Like, this does not affect Kyle Pitts at all.
No, I don't think so either. I need to send out some Pitts offers in Dynasty and see if I can get something done, because I saw a lot of the skies falling type stuff for Pitts, just because obviously hasn't been fantastic for him, but I'm not worried about it either.
No, and Kyle Pitts is still that dude. It wasn't the year you were hoping the Kyle Pitts, when people overdrafted him last year super high. But he still was top 5 in yards per route run. He had a 34% target share in that offense, which is almost unheard of for a tight end. Now, they didn't throw the ball
5 targets
very much
per game.
But still, that was because they had Marcus fucking Mariota at quarterback, right? So I'm not worried about any of that stuff. Like, Kyle Pitts is still that guy. And the crazy part is Kyle Pitts is only 22 years old. Like, he's super young. Like, it's not like he's 24, 25 years old. 22, just turned 22 a couple months ago. So, yes, this could be a perfect window to buy Kyle Pitts, because it seems like people are starting to sour on Kyle Pitts a little bit, or not think highly of him, and I think that's a huge mistake. It already takes tight ends a long time usually to break out, right? We've gotten a little lucky with him and his 1,000-yard season he had his rookie year, but it's fine. Kyle Pitts will be fine. Now, I don't think Arthur Smith is a good head coach. I don't think that at all. Like, and we're yet to really know what they're going to do at quarterback, I guess, because I don't know what they're going to do exactly there. I think it's still a possibility they could do a couple of different things, but Taylor Heineke, I don't know. I don't think he's going to be the guy, but if he ends up being the starter, because I know they have Desmond Ridder, but I don't know really what to expect about that. Maybe they draft somebody. But Taylor Heineke is serviceable enough that can make the rest of those, Drake London and Kyle Pitts fantasy viable, I guess. But we'll see. But yeah, I'm not worried about that. Mike Gesicki could be an interesting cog, depending on where he could possibly wind up. there are some teams that definitely could use a tight end for sure, but he's kind of the guy that I'm looking forward to seeing, kind of where he ends up because the way he was utilized in Miami was just stupid. They tried to make him a blocker. Like this dude is not a blocker at all. Like he's never been one his entire career. Why are we doing this now? So
Yeah, just trying to scroll through Twitter to see if there was anything else that we missed while we've been recording. Seeing that the other teams that were interested in Orlando Brown were the Steelers and the Jets. Bengals put the deal over the top with strong guarantees over the long term. Also, kind of looks like that Darius Slay is going back to Philly.
well, that took a turn, didn't it?
Well, it's also saying that the Eagles never officially released Slay, so it kind of looks like he's staying there.
So I wonder where Orlando Brown's going to play. I'm assuming is it going to be on the left side, or do they move him over to the right side?
I don't know. I do
Because he's not a
not.
left tackle, I can tell you that. Like he was not good with the Chiefs. So I was happy actually with the Juwan Taylor signing by the Chiefs. I did not see that coming. I was not expecting that, and so I was very happy because I think I think it's a pretty big upgrade. Even though he's also a right tackle that they're planning to go over to the left side. Now they've also been linked to a possible trade for Laramie Tunsil, which could possibly happen. They did also free up, I think it was $9 million in cap space by converting partial of Patrick Mahomes' contract. There's still some other stuff they can do there, but I mean, there's some other signings that we didn't really talk about. Like I talked about, Michael McGlinchey signed with the Broncos. He'll play right tackle for them. Juwan Taylor signed with the Chiefs, and then we had what else was there? Ben Powers also signed with the Broncos as well. So that was a big priority for them to really upgrade that offensive line there for them. But like I said, overall, like I think we're going to get some trades that I think people weren't expecting. I think some wide receivers are going to be moved because this just isn't a strong class for wide receivers. Like I mean, the guys that are left that are sitting out there are Odell, which I would not pay. This man's asking for $12 or $20 million. You can get all the way the fuck out of here with that. Coming off with that injury and being over 31, 32 years old, like no thanks. Am I doing that? And then you have DJ Chark, who kind of put things together a little bit last year after having some injury seasons. And then you have Adam Thielen, who I would not pay. Paris Campbell, I think is intriguing, but there's just not a whole lot of options out there at wide receiver. So I do think some teams could, be more involved in the trade market. Like where do you think DeAndre Hopkins could end up?
Man. Trying to looking at the list of teams now. I mean, obviously the Patriots still have a need, right? Like just by getting Juju, like it's cool. Like you said, it's a swap with Jacoby. Depending on what they do, I think I kind of like that signing for Juju going there. Again, if they were to get somebody like D Hop, then forget it. But I also think that offense last year was so bad because they didn't have a legitimate offensive coordinator. Now we got Penn State, Bill O'Brien going back there, not head coach Bob, not GM Bob. I think he's fine as an offensive coordinator. I mean, the Colts seem to be making some cap space, and obviously with not that necessarily having a 29-year-old wide receiver does a ton for kind of putting weapons around a rookie quarterback, but obviously they have the 4th overall pick. The Cardinals want like a second plus for D Hop. I mean, I think that could make some sense. Be interesting to see the Chargers go after him. trying to. I mean, it kind of seems like the Jets is the one that is gaining the most steam. But I don't think they're going to be paying him anywhere near that. As looking at it right now, the Jets have just short of 13 million per not per year, 13 million left, according to Spotrac. So, um, yeah, man, it's I I truly want to see D Hop go somewhere where he has a legitimate chance to win. That's all I really care about. We were talking about some of our favorite fantasy players of all time. That's definitely a name that I could have mentioned. Love D Hop. So I just want to see him go somewhere where with a good quarterback where he has a legit shot to win. Do you have I'm sure you're going to say the Chiefs. But other than the Chiefs, is there a place you'd like to see?
I don't know if that's what the Chiefs would do anyway. They certainly have a need, right? Because obviously they think Kadarius Tony's their wide receiver one, but unless he can stay healthy, like I'm not putting any faith in that. And they've lost 3 wide receivers this year from this team. I mean, Juju, they've lost McCole Hardman, which I guess McCole Hardman's still technically available. They could bring him back if they wanted. Justin Watson was also a player that played a pretty big role in that offense as well. All 3 of those guys are gone, and so you're down to Kadarius Tony, Sky Moore, and MVS left there in that room. So they definitely need wide receivers. So like the fit is there. Like they definitely could use DeAndre Hopkins, and he's not overly expensive. It's $17 million. His yearly average is what he's averaged, and it's basically like a year over year, 1 year deal each year. That any team that's taking him could get out of the deal if he starts to decline and he falls off. So like it's not necessarily crazy, and like the thing that we have to keep it in context too is that the salary cap is going to skyrocket. I think it goes up to in 2027. I think it goes all the way up to $290 million the cap, something like that. And a lot of these teams are gonna have a ton of money. Like next year, the Chiefs have $150 million in cap space to spend next year. Like it's ridiculous how much money they're gonna have to spend next year. And so like they could definitely do it. But they have been telling us and people that they want to go young, and that's what they've been doing. Like they brought in Charles Simile, who um, is 25 years old, pass rusher from the 49ers. They went younger, even with Jawan Taylor, who's 25 years old. Like they're not bringing in these veterans, and there's especially one that's going to cost $17 million. Like it's obviously the fit is there, but I don't think that's something that the Chiefs do. I think it's more of a dream for people of a landing spot for him to go to. I don't think the Chiefs would do it unless they could do it for like a third round pick or something like that. Then maybe they would entertain the idea, but I don't think they're doing it for anything crazy, any sort of compensation because he's 30, almost 31 years old. You're not giving up a first round pick for that man, and I don't think I would even give up a second round pick for him at this point. I think there's a better shot they draft somebody in free agent or at the draft, and I also think that maybe they look to bring in like a Paris Campbell or a DJ Chark, something like that, if they're affordable, rather than bringing in a DeAndre Hopkins. So, and if he goes to the Patriots, I'd hate that. That would just be gross. Like,
Yeah.
I just have no faith in the Patriots offense, and I know that they didn't have an offensive coordinator last year, but this has been like 2 years in a row that they had their offense has really been really dog shit. And so, I mean, so you know, maybe I mean I don't think the Bears would do it either. The Bears aren't in that spot right now. They're still rebuilding. So to bring in DeAndre Hopkins really doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, in my opinion, especially at his age. And I don't think that's somewhere he would want to go anyway. I would think he would want to go to a contender where he has a shot at winning a Super Bowl. I could see the Bills though as a team wanting to do this. I mean they have continually failed in the playoffs. We've been talking about them really needing to get a number 2 wide receiver. There's been talk that Gabe Davis could possibly be moved, and the Giants have interest. Obviously, they have the connection with Brian Dable there. But yeah, that would be a team that wouldn't surprise me at all if they went and tried to swing for the fences and brought in DeAndre Hopkins for Josh Allen. That would be nasty. DeAndre Hopkins and Stephon Diggs in the same offense. That would be pretty sick.
Yeah, that would be a fun watch for sure.
So, but other than that, like I think that's like I was kind of surprised that we didn't see guys like Joe Mixon get released or Dalvin Cook get released. because of their age and what these teams being able to get out from under their contracts, but it just didn't happen. So, yeah. But overall, I mean, so far, this is kind of, I mean, we're at what? I mean, really, technically, I mean, this is only day one of free agency. I'm sure there's going to be a couple other things, maybe some other players get released that we weren't expecting. But yeah, I mean, it's been kind of a mid free agency so far, you know? But I guess it's good news for guys like Isaiah Pacheco, Damian Pierce, because their dreams have yet to be extinguished, and Khalil Herbert, right? Of being a thing next year. I know everybody, that's kind of the new thing. The late round guy, the later round running backs, that's always, just wait till next year till they draft somebody. Like, so far it hasn't happened. Nobody's picked up anybody, and all of them are still the dudes in their offense. So that's positive. Now, of course, we still have the NFL draft to go. Yeah. But yeah, all those guys are still their starting running back for their team. So other than that, I gotta ask. I meant to ask at the beginning. Did you fill out a bracket? You got a bracket filled out? I mean, your Penn State Nittany Lions are playing in the tournament, 10 seed.
Yeah, man, first time in 11 years that they've been in there. I did not fill out a bracket though.
Oh, man. I've got like 8 or 9 brackets in different pools. I'm like an addict. I'm like, hey man, you got a pool, man? You got a pool? I'm in. I don't even know you. I'm gonna send you money. I don't even care. Maybe I never see this money again, but I need it. I love this. March Madness is by far is one of my favorite times of the year. It's just, especially that first week, or that first, Thursday to Sunday is absolutely electric with all the games going on. You just go into game to game to game all day from 11 till, almost midnight time the last game in. So, and the Missouri Tigers are in it, 7 seed going into Utah State. So that's exciting.
I wrote up a little article on potential first round upsets, and I mentioned Utah State over Mizzou. Sorry,
Fuck you. Yeah, that was going to be interesting because Missouri is terrible at defense. I think they're like 174th in KenPom's defensive metric. It's bad, but they're top 10, top 20 in offense. But Missouri was never supposed to be here this soon. Like, they have been terrible for a while, and nobody thought they were going to be anywhere close to this good this year. So it was a really solid turnaround for them. But did you have the Final Four prediction at all? I know you haven't filled out a bracket, but do you have any, anybody that's any lean?
No, I got nothing.
Chat. All right, before we get out of here, what's your Final Four? Who do you guys got in the Final Four? I just want to see what people's right now. I think I have. Let's see.
Texas
is strong.
Bama.
Yes, Alabama is a very good one. But I think that's where most people are going, is Alabama. But they also have probably the easiest bracket to get out of, or easiest side of the bracket anyway. But I do have an Alabama team. My Alabama has Alabama, Duke, Texas, and UConn in the Final Four. I kind of like that.
Yeah, this is gonna be the first year I've actually been able to enjoy it. So looking forward to the remote work life tomorrow. And
yeah.
I'm gonna kick my feet up and enjoy that. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm an animal, and I hopefully nobody I work with is watching, like my boss or anything. But I am calling in tomorrow. I will not be there. So, and the other one I have is a Houston one. I have Houston going, so we'll see. I got to make some changes.
That's right.
I got to make some tweaks tonight, so I'm looking forward to it. It's a great time of the year. So, anyways, just under an hour. That's good. We got through all of this. Of course, I believe next week we're going to be doing some rankings updates. Isn't that correct? Next week, do some rankings. Yeah, I know you're excited. But it's post free agency. We can kind of update the rankings now, dust them off. Make sure you have Tony Pollard at RB1. It's exciting. The RB1. So we're going to do that. We're also going to do a super flex rookie mock tomorrow. We're going to record that. Get that out there for the folks. So everything's happening, right? And it's mid-March, but it's going to fly by. And here we are. It's going to be August again. And it's going to be draft season. And, the NFL season will be kicking back off. So we just want to jump on here and kind of talk through some of our thoughts on this. free agency class. So I appreciate everybody jumping in the chat. It's always fun. It's been a while since we've done a live. I'll have to do more of these
Yeah.
because I enjoy interacting with the chat and talk with everybody. So keep it locked in here. If you are playing March Madness, if you are have a good time. Hopefully your bracket is not busted after week 1, but so is life with March Madness. But anyways, we will keep it locked in here. We will see you all again real soon. Have a safe weekend. Go Mizzou, MIZ, ZOU, Buck KU. Bye.